Imagine looking at your watch. It is exactly 12 p.m. At this very second, your heart stops beating. The pressure in your arteries plummets to zero. The oxygen supply to your entire body is completely cut off. Legally, medically, and biologically, you are dead. But here's the terrifying secret modern science has just uncovered. Death is not a light switch. It is a slow, brutal, and chaotic sliding door. If doctors manage to restart your heart exactly 10 minutes from now, at 12:10 p.m., you will open your eyes and step back into the world of the living. But where exactly will you be during those 10 minutes? For decades, we believed that when the heart stops, the mind vanishes instantly into total darkness. We were wrong. As your body cold starts its final shutdown, your brain is about to experience the most intense, hyper-realistic, and mysterious event of your entire existence. A chaotic explosion of neurological energy that defies everything we know about human consciousness. This is the exact minute-by-minute timeline of what happens to your mind, your cells, and your soul if you die for exactly 10 minutes. And trust me, what happens at minute 6 changes everything. The moment your heart stops, a massive alarm goes off inside your biological system. Within just 3 seconds, the oxygen in your bloodstream is entirely depleted. With no fresh blood arriving, your brain cells run out of their primary fuel source, adenosine triphosphate. Without adenosine triphosphate, your brain can no longer maintain its electrical balance. You would expect the brain to just shut off like a computer losing power, right? Surprisingly, the exact opposite happens. Recent neuroscientific studies monitoring dying patients have revealed something shocking. The moment cardiac arrest occurs, the brain doesn't go dark. Instead, it experiences a massive, coordinated surge of high-frequency electrical activity known as gamma oscillations. These are the exact same brainwaves that occur when you are highly focused, solving complex problems, or experiencing vivid lucid dreams. Except during this first minute of death, these waves are up to 8 times stronger than they are when you are wide awake. Because your brain centers are firing at maximum capacity without the constraint of sensory input from your eyes or ears, your mind creates a brand new reality. This is the exact moment many survivors of clinical death describe as a near-death experience. You do not feel pain. You do not feel fear. Instead, the brain floods your system with endorphins to cushion the blow of mortality. Time begins to warp. Seconds feel like hours. You might feel yourself detaching from your physical body, floating above the room, watching the doctors desperately perform CPR on you as if you are watching a movie. To you, it feels incredibly real. In fact, many describe it as feeling more real than real life. But while your mind is exploring the cosmos, the clock is ticking. By the second minute, your physical body is undergoing profound changes. Your body temperature starts to drop. Your skin turns pale. Your pupils dilate completely and become unresponsive to light. Clinical death is now firmly setting in. And it is right here that the iconic tunnel of light appears. For centuries, this tunnel was viewed as a spiritual gateway to the afterlife. But today, doctors have a devastatingly precise biological explanation for it. It is called retinal ischemia. Your eyes require an immense amount of oxygen to process sight. As blood flow stops, the cells on the outer edges of your retina die off first. Your peripheral vision collapses into total darkness, while the center of your vision holds on for just a few moments longer. The result? A perfect, terrifyingly vivid illusion of moving through a dark tunnel toward a single, brilliant point of light. Simultaneously, a tiny structure deep inside your brainstem called the locus coeruleus, which is responsible for panic, survival, and memory, goes into hyperdrive. It releases its entire lifetime supply of noradrenaline in a desperate bid to wake the body up. This massive chemical surge triggers the famous life review. Your oldest, deepest memories are unlocked all at once. You don't just remember your life, you relive it in hyperspeed, processing years of emotional data in a matter of heartbeats. But as the third minute ends, the protective chemicals begin to run out. The beautiful dream is about to turn into a cellular war zone. We are now entering the danger zone. Up until this point, your brain cells were resting, using up their reserve energy. But by minute 4, the reserves are completely gone. To understand what happens next, you have to understand that every single cell in your body is like a tiny fortress. It uses energy to constantly pump sodium out and pull potassium in, keeping the cell walls stable. When the energy runs out, the pumps stop. The gates of the fortress swing wide open. This is the beginning of a catastrophic process called excitotoxicity. Without energy, a massive wave of a chemical called glutamate floods the brain. This causes an uncontrolled rush of calcium ions into your brain cells. Calcium is normally vital for life, but in these massive, unchecked amounts, it acts like an internal acid. It activates destructive enzymes that literally begin to digest the cell from the inside out. At this point, if you are floating in that beautiful, peaceful afterlife experience, the signal begins to degrade. The neural networks responsible for generating your sense of self, your ego, and your consciousness begin to uncouple. The dream ends. Your brain is downshifting from a complex thinking machine into survival mode, firing random, erratic electrical sparks just to stay alive. The boundary between clinical death, which is reversible, and biological death, which is permanent, is thinning by the second. If you talk to any emergency room doctor or paramedic, they will tell you that the 6-minute mark is the absolute cliff of human resuscitation. Why? Because this is the exact window where permanent, irreversible brain damage begins to lock in. At minute 6, the high accumulation of intracellular calcium triggers the mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cells, to completely rupture. Once the mitochondria destroy themselves, that specific neuron can never produce energy again, even if oxygen returns. By minute 7, the physical structure of the brain begins to alter. The tiny synapses that connect your thoughts, your memories, and your personality traits literally begin to melt away. The brain is erasing its own hard drive. By minute 8, the blood sitting completely still inside the microscopic capillaries of the brain begins to cool down and thicken. Tiny, microscopic blood clots form everywhere, creating blockages throughout the neural pathways. This creates a terrifying medical paradox known as the no-reflow phenomenon. Even if a doctor hooks you up to a machine at minute 8 and forces blood back into your body, the blood cannot physically get through the jammed, clogged capillaries to reach the dying brain tissue. Every second that ticks by now is deleting pieces of who you are. Your childhood memories, your ability to speak, your motor skills, they are all burning out like light bulbs in an abandoned building. 10 minutes have passed since your heart pump failed. The brain is now in a state of profound ischemic crisis. Almost all electrical communication has ceased. The organized gamma waves from the first minute are long gone, replaced by total, chilling silence. At this point, the brain undergoes one final apocalyptic event. It is called anoxic depolarization, or more dramatically by neurologists, the brain tsunami. This is a literal wave of electrochemical death that rolls slowly across the cerebral cortex. It marks the final, definitive loss of cellular energy. As this wave passes, the brain cells lose their electrical charge completely and permanently. If this wave finishes its path completely uninterrupted, it is over. You are gone. The physical framework required to hold a human mind is dismantled. But wait, suddenly, clear. A massive jolt of electricity from a defibrillator tears through your chest cavity. Your heart gives a violent shudder. The flat line on the monitor suddenly cracks, spikes upward, and begins to beat again. 60 beats per minute, 80 beats per minute, 100 beats per minute. Fresh, highly pressurized, oxygen-rich blood rushes back up your neck, flooding into your skull. You are being brought back from the dead. But the danger isn't over. In fact, the most dangerous part of dying for 10 minutes is surviving it. When your brain cells have been starving for 10 long minutes, the sudden arrival of fresh oxygen isn't an immediate cure. It is a shock to the system. This is what medical science calls reperfusion injury. When damaged cells are suddenly flooded with oxygen, they accidentally create massive amounts of free radicals, highly reactive, unstable molecules that attack the already weakened cell walls. The sudden return of blood can actually cause more immediate structural destruction to the brain than the actual period of starvation did. This is why modern emergency medicine doesn't just wake you up. Instead, they often place survivors into therapeutic hypothermia, actively cooling the entire human body down to around 33 degrees Celsius or 91 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 hours. By cooling your body down, doctors slow your cellular metabolism to a crawl. This stops the calcium acid cascade, prevents the free radicals from forming, and gives your damaged brain cells a quiet, frozen window to repair themselves before waking up. When you finally do open your eyes days later, you will have stepped across the ultimate border. You will have been legally dead for 10 minutes, experienced a neurological journey that science is only beginning to chart, and returned to tell the tale. What the science of the 10-minute flatline teaches us is that death is not a definitive moment in time. It is a biological process, a negotiation between cellular survival and structural decay. Every single one of us will one day face that final countdown, and while our bodies will eventually close their gates, it is profoundly comforting to know that our brains are hardwired to give us an incredibly beautiful, peaceful, and unforgettable send-off into the great unknown. If your heart stopped today, would you want to know what your brain saw on the other side? Thank you for watching and stay curious.